Let me tell you something powerful. Men always remember how you made them feel in your absence. Not what you said, not how you cried, not how many times you forgave them, but how your energy felt when you were gone. When you walk away with grace, not bitterness, you plant a seed in his mind. You become the what if that lingers long after he thought he'd moved on. When you act calm instead of reactive, he's confused. When you stay soft but distant, he's intrigued. When you show that you're capable of building a life without him, he realizes he wasn't your only source of happiness. That's when the panic sets in, because now he's not needed, he's optional. And let's be honest, being optional terrifies a man who once thought he had you figured out. He'll start reaching out, testing the waters, seeing if he still has access to you, and the best response. Emotional discipline, you don't have to block him or be cold, just stay detached, confident, and busy creating a life that excites you. When you act like a woman who isn't defined by a relationship, you shift the power dynamic completely. You stop playing the game of who cares more, and you start living in your value. And the truth is, nothing pulls a man back faster than realizing he's not the center of your world anymore. You ever notice how sometimes, when a man walks away, he starts missing you only after you stop chasing him? That's not an accident. That's the moment your energy changes. When you move from seeking his approval to valuing your own peace, men sense that, they feel it, and suddenly, the woman they took for granted becomes the woman they can't stop thinking about. See, when you stop trying to prove your worth to a man, he starts realizing it on his own. The truth is, a man doesn't fall in love with a woman because she's always available. He falls in love when she's grounded in herself, when she doesn't let his absence destroy her peace. That's when he begins to question everything. He replays moments in his head, the way you laughed, the way you listened, the way you made him feel safe, and for the first time he wonders if he lost something he can't replace. The power lies not in walking away with bitterness, but in walking away with grace. When you carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to convince, defend, or explain, you radiate strength. You're no longer begging for closure because your self-worth is the closure. You're no longer chasing him because you've realized you were never the one who needed to run. That's what makes him return, not the silence you use to manipulate him, but the silence that comes from peace. A calm woman, focused on herself, glows differently. She's magnetic. She doesn't need to post reminders of her happiness because she is happiness. And when a man feels that, it shakes him. It forces him to see what life looks like without your energy, your warmth, your calm presence. You don't have to block him. You don't have to play cold. Just detach. Let him feel the absence of your energy, because that's when he'll start feeling the pull. He'll wonder why your attention doesn't orbit around him anymore. He'll miss the emotional safety he once took for granted. So don't act out of fear. Act out of power. When you shift from chasing to choosing, you become unforgettable. And that's the energy that always makes men return, not because you needed them to, but because your peace made them realize they can't find you twice. Let me tell you something powerful. A man doesn't come back because you remind him of what you had. He comes back because he starts to feel what he's lost. And that realization doesn't happen when you chase, argue, or explain. It happens in silence, when your energy no longer reaches out for him. When you stop reacting, you shift the entire dynamic. You're no longer trying to get him back. You're showing him that your life moves beautifully forward, with or without him. When a man leaves, he expects you to crumble. He expects the texts, the questions, the desperate energy that confirms he was important. But when he's met with your calm, your composure, your peace, it confuses him. Because now, he's the one wondering, he's the one checking your social media, replaying your last conversation, wondering why you seem so unaffected. That curiosity is powerful. It's what draws him back. The secret is not indifference, it's emotional control. You can still care about him, you can still miss him, but you don't let those feelings make you lose yourself. You don't chase validation from the same person who made you question your value. Instead, you invest in yourself. You pour your energy into your growth, your purpose, your joy. You remind yourself that you were someone before him and you'll be someone after him. And that's when he starts to feel your absence, not as silence, but as strength. Because while he's still processing the breakup, you're evolving, you're living, you're glowing in ways that have nothing to do with him. That's the moment it hits him. He lost someone rare, someone who didn't need drama to prove love, someone who could walk away with grace. Men are drawn to that kind of woman, the one who has boundaries but still warmth, the one who forgives but doesn't forget herself in the process, the one who knows she deserves consistency, not confusion. So if you want him to return, don't try to pull him back. Just let him feel the space you've created, the space where your peace lives, because in that space, he'll remember the version of you that made him feel safe, admired, and inspired. And he'll realize he might never find it again. That's when he returns, not to the old you, but to the woman you became when you stopped waiting for him. Here's the truth. Emotional control is the most powerful form of attraction there is. Not the kind where you fake being strong, but the kind where you genuinely don't need anyone to complete you. When a man sees that, he feels something he can't explain, admiration mixed with regret, because suddenly he realizes you're no longer emotionally tied to his approval. You've detached not out of anger, but out of self-respect, and that difference is everything. Most people think strength means pretending you're unbothered, but that's not real confidence. True confidence is being honest with yourself. Yes, you cared, yes, you loved, but you also learned that love doesn't mean losing yourself. You can miss someone deeply and still know they're not what's best for your peace. That kind of maturity is rare, and that's what makes it magnetic. When you stop reacting to his every move, he loses his power. When you stop explaining yourself just to be understood, he starts listening more carefully. And when you stop proving your worth, he starts remembering why he fell for you in the first place. That's how the shift happens, not through games, but through growth. Think about it. When you evolve, you become a mirror of what he's not ready to face. You remind him of what emotional stability and feminine strength look like. He may not say it, but he feels it, and it triggers something in him, a mix of guilt and curiosity. He starts to wonder, how did she move on so peacefully? How is she happier without me? That's when the longing begins. You see, people are always drawn to peace, especially when they can't find it within themselves. And when you've found yours, you become irresistible, not because of how you look, but because of how you make others feel in your presence. Calm, safe, inspired. So keep your composure. Don't chase closure. Don't seek validation. Let your silence, your growth, and your peace speak for you. Because when you master your emotions, you master attraction. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value. They feel it the moment they lose access to you, and that's the moment he starts thinking about you again. Not because you tried to make him, but because your strength quietly reminded him of what real love and real value looks like. There's something magnetic about a woman who knows how to walk away with grace, not because she's cold or emotionless, but because she respects herself enough to not beg for attention that should have been freely given. When you detach without bitterness, you shift from being an option in his world to being the standard he can't stop comparing others to. That's the kind of power no manipulation can create. It comes from quiet strength. When you no longer chase clarity or closure, he starts seeking it. When you no longer respond to his mixed signals, he starts wondering why his games no longer work. It's that calm, unbothered energy that turns the tables. Because while he's trying to prove he doesn't need you, you're out there proving, without words, that you were never waiting. You're living, you're glowing, you're becoming everything he thought you'd fall apart without. Men are deeply affected by loss, but not the kind you cry over. The kind that stays silent, dignified, and grounded. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding his ego. When you stop explaining, You stop giving him emotional power. And suddenly, he's left with silence, and silence makes him think. He'll start to replay every conversation, every mistake, every time he thought you'd always be there, and now you're not. That absence hits harder than any argument ever could. So when he tries to come back, dropping those late-night texts or just checking in messages, don't rush to fill the silence. Let him see that you're not the same woman he left. You've evolved. You've learned that attention isn't love, and that love without effort isn't worth keeping. You don't punish him. You simply don't participate in the old dynamic anymore. That's the most powerful response of all emotional neutrality. Because emotional neutrality doesn't mean you don't care. It means you refuse to lose your peace over someone who once took it for granted. That's when the realization dawns on him. You were never the problem. You were the piece he didn't know how to handle, and now that piece is gone. That's the moment he starts wanting back in. But what he doesn't realize is that the woman he left no longer exists. You've grown, you've healed, and you've raised your standards. And maybe, just maybe, that's his biggest punishment. To see you thriving without needing him, and to know he can't access the version of you he once had. When you finally choose yourself, everything changes. You stop operating from fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. And in that shift, you find your power, because a woman who isn't afraid to be alone becomes the hardest one to forget. She doesn't wait for validation, she gives it to herself. She doesn't chase love, she attracts it by being at peace with who she is. That kind of energy is irresistible. You see, men always come back when you become the version of yourself that's truly free. Free from the need to please, to fix, or to prove. When you start living for you, your confidence grows effortlessly. It's not loud or arrogant, it's quiet, steady, unshakable. You walk differently, talk differently, and even your silence carries weight. That's when he notices. That's when he realizes he's no longer on the pedestal he once stood on. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop needing him, he starts needing you. He'll try to re-enter your life, not because he suddenly became everything you wanted, but because he misses how your presence made him feel about himself. But this time you're different. You see things clearly. You no longer confuse attention with affection or effort with consistency. You've learned that love isn't about how much you give, it's about how well you're treated in return. So when he returns, you won't be angry or bitter. You'll just be aware. You'll listen, but you'll know that not every person who misses you deserves a second chance with you. Because sometimes the most powerful move isn't letting someone back in. It's loving yourself enough to close the door gently and walk away. That's what growth looks like. You've stopped living for the story of him and started living the story of you. You're no longer waiting to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself, and that's the energy that not only draws him back but attracts better into your life, better love, better peace, better alignment. In the end, men always return when you stop acting like you need them to, because the moment you become content in your solitude, you become the kind of woman who's not replaceable. You're no longer seeking completion. You are completion. And that realization doesn't just make you powerful, it makes you unforgettable.